Close, but not close enough.
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Tough loss for Syracuse. They were close against Texas Tech tonight, but unfortunately, they fell short, 79-74. This is a post-game reaction podcast here on Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer, and folks, this is the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day, and we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And tonight, we are breaking down Syracuse's loss to Texas Tech. It was a close one. They were in the game throughout. It felt in the second half that Texas Tech was going to pull away. Syracuse then got back in the game. They were chipping away at the end. But unfortunately, they fall just short. Later on in the podcast, I'm going to tell you that, Syracuse basketball in the Legends Classic finished 0 for 2. They lost both games, but it's about as good of an 0 for 2 as you're going to have. Just hear me out later on in the podcast. I will get to why, okay? I promise. We're also going to talk about the front court because I feel like it's a big topic of discussion right now. I think it is the strength of Syracuse's roster because they have so many guys who can play in it. So what should Syracuse do? What should Adrian Autry do? Leave your comment in the comment section below what you think Syracuse should do with its front court. But first, we are going to recap this game and really the moment where Syracuse lost. Before we get to that, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So, it was a back-and-forth game in the first half. It was 31-31. Syracuse was playing really well defensively. J.J. Starling was carrying the offense. But in the second half, that's where Texas Tech, started kind of pulling away from Syracuse. You saw why this is a team that is probably going to be in the NCAA tournament come March. We saw why. They're big, they're physical. Yeah, they don't have they're not big in terms of size, like how tall they are, but they're mean and they're physical and they can get down low on you. They had some clutch shot making from McMillan, hitting back-to-back threes. And in several moments in the second half, Texas Tech opened up a double-digit lead, but Syracuse was able to claw back into the game by doing some of the little things. All right, we'll get to one particular player who was doing all of the little things for Syracuse basketball in this game. We'll get to him in the front court talk. But there was a moment where Syracuse lost. It was an unfortunate one. Syracuse is down 69-64 with a little less than 2 minutes remaining in the game. And Texas Tech, off a timeout, has the ball on its own end of the floor. They're inbounding on the baseline, just like a standard play after Syracuse, gets a couple free throws to go. I think they got one of the two. It was Elijah Moore at the free throw line before. But I digress. 69-64. Tech has the ball, up 5 points. Syracuse basketball decides to do a full court press, which makes a lot of sense. You're down by 5. There's less than 2 minutes to go. Why not try to force a steal? It worked last night against Texas, right? So you got to try it. Well, to Texas Tech's credit, they break it. They have some nice passing, and they get a layup. Except Chris Bell out of nowhere gets an enormous block for the Orange. Because not only did they prevent Texas Tech from scoring, because Texas Tech was able to break the press so easily, they did not drain a lot of the clock. It was only a few seconds that came off. So now Syracuse is in a good spot. Yeah, you're down 5, but you have the ball. There's still well over a minute and a half left in the game. You're good. You're fine. J.J. Starling, I believe it was J.J. Starling, is in transition, and he hits Chris Bell in the right corner for a wide open three. I have seen Chris Bell hit this shot a million times. A corner three. He loves the corner. But he missed it. He missed it. And that was the game. Texas Tech gets the rebound. It becomes kind of a free throw battle. But that's what you need to know. That was the moment where Syracuse lost this game. I don't want to get on Chris Bell too much. We'll talk about him in the next segment here. But Chris Bell, he was fine tonight. He was. We're still waiting for him to get hot from deep. But Chris Bell in this game was second on the team in scoring with 22 points. He was 11 for 11 from the free throw line. 11 for 11. Even Steph Curry sometimes doesn't make 11 straight free throws. So I can't knock Chris Bell too much, but that was the shot right there. He was 3 of 8 from 3 for the game. We're still waiting on him to have that big, explosive three-point outing that we saw him have so many times, especially towards the end of last season. He hasn't quite had it yet. I talked about one of the keys of this game is Chris Bell has got to get hot. And in a way, he did. He found a way to score 22 points. He was 11-11 from the free throw line, but 3 of 8 from deep. It's a good percentage. 3 of 8 is 37.5%. That's pretty good. It's pretty good. But in that situation, he's got to hit that 3. If he hits that 3, it's a 2-point game. There's plenty of time on the clock. Syracuse wouldn't have to foul. They could play defense. And who knows what happens. But that was the moment right there where they lost the game. It was right there. As far as some of the issues that Syracuse basketball corrected from last game to this game, the big one is free throw shooting. They finally were very good at the free throw line. Free throws are not the reason why Syracuse lost. They were 24 of 28. That is 86%. That's pretty good. That's what you need to do consistently. I know it's not necessarily feasible to shoot 86% over the course of a season, but you'll take 86%. That's solid. You can point to turnovers and say that maybe that's why Syracuse lost. And to that, I would say, I don't think Syracuse basketball lost because they turned the ball over a lot. They had 12 turnovers in the game. That's not an overwhelming amount. But Texas Tech had 3 of them. So maybe that's why Syracuse lost. Not because they were turning the ball over a ton, but they could not force turnovers. And as a result, the points off turnovers in this game, Texas Tech had 18, Syracuse had 7. Well, there you go. That was kind of the stat. Syracuse was good with rebounding. They out-rebounded them 39-30. Neither team was overwhelmingly hot from deep. It came down to turnovers, but Syracuse didn't even turn the ball over a lot. Just Texas Tech did a great job of taking care of I almost said football, taking care of the basketball. Don't worry, we got football tomorrow, playing against UConn. So that, to me, was the game. I gave you the moment where I thought Syracuse was going to lose. Like, I knew right then and there that Chris Bell, when he missed that corner 3. And as far as a reason, turnovers. But it wasn't really on Syracuse. 12 is not too much. But they didn't force any on defense. Not that they played bad defense. They just didn't force any. Credit Texas Tech for that. They are a very good team. We'll talk about in the road ahead later on in the podcast how, you know what? It wasn't all that bad, even though Syracuse went 0 for 2 this weekend in Brooklyn. I'm Jackson Holzer, and this is Locked On Syracuse. We are going over Syracuse basketball, 79-74 loss to Texas Tech tonight. We just went over the moment where we kind of knew when Chris Bell missed that open 3, it would have made it a 2-point game. Talked about the main reason they lost, which was turnovers, but really it was because they didn't force any rather than committing too many themselves. It was 12-3. Now coming up, we are going to talk about this front court. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Prize Picks is the best way to get action on sports in over 30 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, and Texas. Prize Picks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, Prize Picks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. You think, Justin Jefferson in the NFL for the Vikings will get more than 83.5 yards next week. Lamar Jackson more than 1.5 touchdowns. Cook up hot takes with your friends and win real money this football season when you and your crew run your game on Prize Picks. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. I'm Jackson Holzer. This is Locked On Syracuse. We're going over Syracuse basketball. 79-74 loss to Texas Tech. Syracuse unfortunately goes 0 for 2 in the Legends Classic. They lost to Texas last night in another competitive battle. We just talked about in the last segment the moment where I knew that Syracuse lost this game, and turnovers really killed the Orange, but really it was because they couldn't force any. Now let's talk about this front court. Let's talk about the Syracuse front court and what they should do. As I teased at the beginning of this podcast, leave a comment in the comment section below what you would do with this front court rotation, okay? First of all, let's get the free spaces out of the way. Eddie Lampkin, I know he didn't look like himself tonight. That's for a couple of reasons. Number one, he played a ton of minutes last night, and I know it's not necessarily an excuse because every team played last night. But particularly for Eddie Lampkin, he gets a pass because he's also dealing with a back injury right now. He gets a pass. He didn't play the greatest, but overall, still gave 28 minutes, and he's your starting center. It was a back-to-back. There aren't going to be many back-to-backs this season, really until the ACC tournament. That's it. So Eddie Lampkin, he's going to play a lot, bar none. Chris Bell. It's a little bit polarizing here at Syracuse, don't you think? A little polarizing, but here's my take on him. He's got to play whether you like it or not. I'm sorry, he's got to play. I know he'll drive you crazy. And I know I said in the last segment, he missed a big three-pointer in this game. He did. He's still got to play. He has to play. Why does he have to play? But Jackson, he's not a good defender. He turns the ball over sometimes on offense. He drives you crazy, right? Why does he have to play? Because he is the best shooter on the team. He's the best shooter on the team. He provides a ton of floor spacing. They need him to play. He is a threat on offense. Period. He's got to play, which leaves one spot in the front court available. That's your 4. Now, what do? In my opinion, you got to play the hot hand, which is what Coach Autry appears to be doing, particularly through the first 5 games of the season. It comes down to 3 players: Donnie Freeman, Jyare Davis, and Petar M. Those 3. You got to play the hot hand. Let's talk about Donnie Freeman. Highly touted freshman, the highest ranked Syracuse basketball recruit since Carmelo Anthony. That's fact. It's not opinion. It's not speculation. It is fact. He was the number 6 overall recruit in the country across 2 major recruiting services, and every major recruiting service had him as a 5-star player and I believe top 15 overall in the country. Right? He was highly touted. But right now, one of the things that we were told about Donnie is, he's a 3-level scorer. What does that mean? He can score inside, he can score in the mid-range, and he can score from deep. And that's really valuable because Donnie Freeman is 6'9", has a long frame. If he can shoot the ball at a high rate, look out. He's going to be really good. The problem is that he's not shooting the ball well. He's not. Coming into this game, he was 3 for 12 from 3. That's 25%. That's not good. What was he tonight? Even worse, 0 for 3 from deep. So now for the season, he is 3 of 15, which is 20%. He's not shooting the three ball well. He's got to play more inside. That's what's going on with Donnie Freeman right now. He's also not the greatest defender in the world. And in this game, yeah, he rebounded a ton, but he also had a lot of miscues too. He had 4 turnovers. 4 turnovers for a power forward? Really? 4 turnovers. He had 2 travels in the first half, which weren't very good. I mean, one of them was really bad. It was in transition. He's getting ready to shoot a 3. He gets a pass. He just forgets to dribble. You got to take one dribble. I mean, it's an easily correctable mistake, but he was making mistakes tonight. And he didn't, I mean, did he play? He still played 29 minutes, which is kind of surprising to me. Because last night, he didn't play much at all. But he didn't have it tonight, clearly. There's also Jyare Davis. Jyare Davis, in this game, in his limited action, he did not play a whole lot. Jyare Davis only played 12 minutes. I think he should have played more in this game. I really do. I was really impressed with his defense. Now, maybe it's because he was too tired from last night, and that's why Coach Autry didn't want to play him more. But I thought he should have played more. He had a number of moments in this game where he was a bulldog out there. I mean, Jay Williams on the broadcast said he's built like a linebacker. That was a quote. He was doing an excellent job on JT Toppin, Texas Tech's best player. I thought he should have played more in this game. He can also provide a bit of a scoring punch too, if that helps. But I thought tonight he had more of a hot hand than Donnie Freeman did, particularly on defense and taking care of the ball. That's just my opinion. Overall, you got to play the hot hand, period. I know that Donnie Freeman's the number 6 overall recruit in the country, but guess what? We're trying to win basketball games right now. They did it last night, playing mostly Jyare Davis instead of Donnie. I would have done it again tonight. Not to say I would change the starting lineup, but I thought Jyare looked better out there. That's just my opinion. The third one is Petar M. Petar Majstorovic. The 2 words. There are 2 words that sum him up, okay? Energy and effort. That's what he provides. I don't think that he's the greatest basketball player in the world. But he provides a lot of energy and effort. Whether it's diving for loose balls, particularly at the end of the first half, where he did a nice job. I forgot, he was either guarding Darrion Williams or JT Toppin, but one of those two, he was guarding him, stayed in front of him, forced him into a tough shot, dove for the rebound, got the rebound. It set up Syracuse at the end of the first half. Didn't lead to a score, but it was great hustle. Or it's the fact that before the sequence that led to Syracuse really losing this game, before all of that, why was Elijah Moore at the free throw line when he made 1 of 2 to make it 69-64? Why was he at the free throw line with 1:54 to go? He was at the free throw line because Petar Majstorovic got an offensive rebound off free throw misses. I believe it was free throw misses. I might be confusing it, but it was because of him. He provides a ton of energy and a ton of effort. So the bottom line is this. I don't care about your recruiting ranking right now. I don't care if you were a transfer, if you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. I don't care. The strategy has got to be going forward with this front court to play the hot hand. You're going to play Eddie Lampkin a ton. He's your starting center. You got to play Chris Bell. That's a free space. You have to, whether you like it or not. But between Donnie, Petar, and Jyare, roll with the hot hand. Roll with what works. That's what they did last night, and I felt tonight Coach Autry got a little bit away from that. I don't think Donnie should have played 29 minutes. Not saying that that's entirely the reason they lost, but 29 minutes for him when he was off, I wouldn't have done it. So that's the front court talk, okay? Syracuse basketball loses this game 79-74. Leave your comments in the comment section below, your reaction to this game and your thoughts on the front court. Now, coming up, let's talk about the road ahead for Syracuse basketball. It wasn't all bad this weekend. So I first gave pre-alcohol a try when I was with some buddies, and I drank it, and you wouldn't believe how on top of my game I was on the very next morning. First, you got to drink pre-alcohol. For best results, make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night. And step 2, well, you got to drink responsibly. Pace yourself, hydrate, and get a good night's sleep. And then just enjoy tomorrow. Wake up feeling refreshed and ready to take on the day. Go to ZBiotics.com/LockedOnCollege to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use code LockedOnCollege at checkout. ZBiotics is backed with 100% money-back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to ZBiotics.com/LockedOnCollege and use the code LockedOnCollege at checkout for 15% off. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Let's talk about Syracuse football for a moment, shall we? They are a 10.5-point favorite against UConn tomorrow. Money line's at -360 last time I checked. Now, Syracuse, they just pulled off an upset win. How are they going to handle being a favorite at home against a team in UConn that they should probably beat? This is football we're talking about, not basketball. How are they going to handle being the favorite? Well, that's up for you to decide. Just go to FanDuel.com to join today, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com, and never waste a hunch, and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. This is Locked On Syracuse, and I'm Jackson Holzer, breaking down Syracuse basketball's 79-74 loss to Texas Tech tonight. They go 0-2 in the Legends Classic. Syracuse also lost a tight one against Texas last night. We also talked about the front court, the moment where Syracuse lost. Let's talk about going forward for Syracuse basketball. In my opinion, this team took a good step. They did. Yeah, they went 0-2, but it was the best possible 0-2 that they can have. Why was it the best 0-2 they can have? Because their first game was a very close loss to Texas, a team that is probably going to be in the tournament. Let's start there. So, okay, you're 0-1. Texas Tech was upset last night. St. Joe's was not predicted to win, but they did. They won. I told you why this morning, if you check that out. They got hot from deep. Texas Tech was cold from deep. That's what happened. So, Syracuse basketball drew Texas Tech in the second game, something that we didn't expect would happen. And as a result, they lost this game. Texas Tech is a team that, once again, is probably going to be in the tournament. They probably will. They are a very, very good team. And they lost by 5. It's another one of those losses where I imagine Syracuse basketball is going to go up in the advanced metrics because they lost against a very good team on a neutral site in a close, competitive manner. This is a step up from last season, whether you like it or not. Whether you think that the standard has really fallen from Syracuse basketball, it has. It has fallen clearly. It's fallen for years, okay? It's not the same as it was 12 years ago or 15 years ago or 20 years ago or 30. It's not the same anymore. I understand that. Baby steps, baby steps, baby steps, baby steps. It's not all going to come back in one season. This was a good step in the right direction. 2 losses, 2 competitive losses against 2 teams that are going to be in the tournament come March. Last season, Syracuse basketball, if you recall, they went to Maui. They played up against 2 teams that were going to be in the tournament come March. They played Tennessee and they played Gonzaga, and they got their butts kicked. Now you can say in those games, well, Syracuse at one point was close with Tennessee and they were close with Gonzaga. Look at the final score of the game. The final score of the game is really what matters for the advanced metrics. That's a flaw in the advanced metrics, but it's the reality of them. They look at the final score, they look at the point differential, and they got crushed in those games. In these ones, nope. 2 tight losses. Okay. Not the end of the world. They go 0 for 2, not the end of the world. But having said that, yes, it's a good step. What is the next step? Actually winning. Let's start there. You got to win now. Close, but not close enough. You got to win. In their non-conference games left, the 2 biggest ones remaining are at Tennessee, and then they play again in Brooklyn against Maryland. I think Syracuse has to win one of those games. They have to. They have to win one of them outright. I don't think it's enough if Syracuse loses both of those games, but they're both very competitive and it's similar to this where they just lose by 5. I don't think it's enough. They have to win at least one of those games. Otherwise, come ACC play, they're going to have a really, really good record to get tournament consideration. I saw from a Twitter account, a bracketology account, it's slipping my mind today, but that person said if Syracuse wins one of, Texas Tech and Tennessee and Maryland, they're on the bubble. If they lose all of them, then they probably have to go 13-7 in the ACC just to get some sort of consideration. And then it comes down to also who you beat in the ACC. If Syracuse beats Duke and they beat Carolina at home this year, well, those are 2 very impressive victories. But as far as their non-conference slate going forward, they're going to have to win either at Tennessee or on a neutral site against Maryland. They've taken good steps. They have shown progress. They look a whole lot better now than when they were 3-0. In fact, I would say I feel better about this team after these 2 losses than I felt after the first 3 games, which were all wins against crappy teams. Sorry, it's the reality. But now they got to win. They got to beat Tennessee or Maryland. It ain't going to be easy, but that is the next step for Syracuse basketball to, dare I say, make the tournament, which was the expectation going into the season. That's going to do it. Thank you for making Locked On Syracuse your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On ACC podcast. Alex Donald and Kenton Gibbs, they keep it real and bring you the truth about where your favorite ACC team stands within the conference. You can find Locked On ACC on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts, folks. Coming up on the podcast tomorrow, post-game reaction. Syracuse football plays UConn at noon, and after the game, we're going to talk about it. That's coming up tomorrow, and then later on, I will recap both games of the Legends Classic. It won't be tomorrow, but it could be Sunday, it could be Monday. I'll talk about both games of the Legends Classic and the main takeaways from them. Speaking of which, leave your main takeaways from the Legends Classic in the comments section below. Do you agree with me that, hey, it was a good step in the right direction? Or do you not care because Syracuse basketball lost the games anyway? Leave your comment in the comment section below. Folks, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening. If you like this video, click that like button. If you really liked it, subscribe to the channel, turn on those notifications so you know right away when I am dropping the next podcast. And everyone, I will see you all tomorrow after UConn.